All right, time to kick off episode 2 of the Fact Check This podcast. Today I'm going to talk about something that has not been brought up at all in 2020, and it's really a shame. I want to talk about COVID 19. Oh, yeah, so anyway, what I really want to talk about, I pulled up fee.org. They do a lot of economics based reporting and stuff. It's a private organization. And if you click on the stories tab of fee.org, everything that comes up right off the bat is in relation to suicides, deaths from other things not related to COVID-19 that are actually related to COVID-19 because of the lockdowns and everything else that's been going on. So I wanted to talk about a lot of that stuff because it's important stuff to talk about, and it's really not getting a lot of traction. Like in the wake of everybody talking about all of the lockdowns and how, I mean, mainstream politicians, especially on the left, who want to continue to lock down and lock down even further on everything, and they're completely ignoring all of the stuff that says they're completely ignoring the World Health Organization even saying that these lockdowns are not good and they're not beneficial, and they are doing more harm than they are good in terms of just the economy and everything about the way people are handling this and how this is going. So one of the things that you want to look at just right off the bat, like the very first article, suicides are up nearly 100% among young people in Wisconsin's second largest county. And it's because of social isolation. If we look at the social isolation, the statistics and the numbers and everything on all of this, so social isolation increases the death rate by 30% over the next 7 years, according to 70 studies that took into account 3.4 million people who were looked at and studied over a course of time. And these studies were done. These studies were done just on normal isolation events over a number of years before all the COVID stuff happened. That doesn't even take into account all of the craziness that's been involved with COVID. So there could be even more negative effects of this just because of the way COVID has been handled. Like just social isolation alone increases the death rate by 30%. So we are forcing people to lock down and socially distance and isolate away from everybody. And that is proven to put people in a bad state of mind and create a higher death rate. Suicides for this year are projected to increase by 20 to 30%. That's roughly 7,000 more suicides this year than last year. What is the cost of these lockdowns? Like, nobody wants to talk about this kind of stuff, and it's really, so nobody in the mainstream media wants to talk about this stuff because they've got to push their narrative that the only way to get through this is to keep locking people down and keep people cooped up at home, don't let anybody out, that we have to have the government take care of us in every way, shape, form, and fashion. And it's proving itself over and over again that it's not working. It's not working. I mean, you can look at Europe, all across Europe, even in the most strictly locked down countries, they are seeing a resurgence of COVID cases. Now, the same as here in the United States, we're also seeing a resurgence in cases, but the death rates are significantly lower in this resurgence. So there's a lot more testing being done. There's already been proven by the CDC. I'd have to look it up and try to find the link to the article. There was an article that came out a couple weeks ago that said that the testing that they're using is way, way too sensitive. It's finding with a lot of these cases is that the disease is not even active. Like it's locating dead cells of disease or inactive disease. Like it's not even. It's way too sensitive and that's the reason there are so many false positives. I think it's they said like 90% of the positives are false positives or asymptomatic positives, or like not actually active live disease that are getting checked as positives. And another, like the reporting is, it's dishonest at best, if not just all out fabrication and lie. So when somebody gets tested for the disease, if they have a positive test, then they have to retest in 10 days or whatever, or retest every week. And so when they go back and they get retested, if they still test positive the next time around, it counts as a new positive test. So if that person spends 4 weeks in the hospital and they get tested every week and the test comes back positive every week, that one person will count for 4 positive tests. Like, they don't take into account that it's the same person. So the number can grow exponentially just based off of same tests being done over and over again on people that are still sick or recovering. And then a lot of the recoveries don't even get recorded after the person has recovered and they're no longer sick. Then they just disappear from the records, but they don't get counted as no longer sick. They don't get counted as no longer, or as recovered from the disease. So you just get these compiling, like, it never ends. It never stops going up. So, we get these caseloads, and how many people have been diagnosed with COVID is something outrageous. And okay, how many of those people are actually actively sick right now that haven't recovered? Do we even know? Is there any knowledge of that at all? Like, let's see, total coronavirus cases in the United States is, let's call it 8.9 million. 8.9 million. And that's just a cumulative number, but they throw that number out there like it's 8.9 million are sick and in the hospital with coronavirus right now. And it's just disingenuous and unfair reporting and untrue in every way. And yes, there have been hospitals at certain times in certain places of the country that have had met capacity and have had issues getting supplies. But that's not the case right now. And even in the places that are seeing resurgence, they're not seeing it at the level that it's requiring, like mass hospitalizations. We're better at treating it. We know what it is. And a lot of it is younger people who are starting to get it now that didn't get it early on. So it doesn't have near the fatality rate. And even when it does, what was the CDC numbers? It was like you've got a 99.97% chance of surviving this. Like, unless you're over 70 with 3 comorbidities, your survival rate is 97 or 99%. I mean, it's just outrageous that they continue to push the lockdowns when it's being proven on a wide scale that the lockdowns do not accomplish anything. So this year we're going to have deaths by heart disease up 29%. We're going to have deaths by stroke up 32%. There is a projected, let's see, it is projected that the disrupted sleep patterns, effects to the immune system, and higher stress hormones from lockdowns and social isolation are going to contribute even more and more to the increased death rate that social isolation causes anyway. It's expected that there will be 10,000 excess deaths from cancer over the next decade due to delays in diagnosis, treatment. We're already seeing it now. People are dying from cancer because they can't get their cancer treatment because the hospitals are not letting anybody in except for COVID. The whole thing, we really have turned the treatment into a worse disease than the disease is on its own. working on some other numbers and stuff, and I've been looking at this all day, and gosh, it's insane, the idea and the fact that the mainstream media will not cover this or talk about this stuff. The media is the enemy of the people at this point. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, we are being manipulated on a wide scale basis by the people who are supposed to be reporting this stuff to us and telling us the truth and helping us make informed decisions. And, like, you've got to start getting out and looking at other sources and other places and find news from somebody other than CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS. Like, none of these are working. They are all just absolutely terrible. And I mean, it should be criminal the way they are lying to us and manipulating us on everything as we go through all of this. So, looking at some of the other stuff, like, we've already talked about overdoses, or I may not have. Overdoses in the month of April were up 29%. Overdoses in the month of May were up 42% over last year. And I shared a post about this and talked about it on my Facebook page back in March and April when all of these lockdowns were starting to roll out. Like, people are going to die because they are not being able to do the things that would keep them out of these situations. Social isolation is a terrible thing. Kids, there was an article that showed the number of kids, like school-age kids, that had considered suicide over the summer because of the social isolation and not being allowed to get out and do things and see their friends and spend time just being kids. We are killing a generation right now because we won't let them out of their houses. And not we. Like, I think probably anybody who actually listens to me or pays attention or knows me knows that I don't support this shit at all. Early on in COVID, I was on the side of caution. I never really agreed with the mask thing, but I did kind of take the side of the social distancing. With working in retail and being just slammed on a daily basis, it was frustrating because it was all fresh and it was all new and we didn't really know what was going on at the time. And while I thought that lockdowns were certainly on the extreme end of things and unwarranted and unjustified, I did agree that there needed to be social distancing. Like, people needed to be cautious. It was especially frustrating because from the get-go, everybody knew that older people in poor health were the most at risk. Like, you could see that right away, that older people in poor health were obviously very at risk. And a lot of the people that we were seeing at the store were 65, 70 years old, having trouble getting around. Like, they were clearly the demographic that should have been socially distancing and trying to protect themselves. And they didn't give a shit. They were out there living life. And we all should have been given the opportunity to do that, to carry on. But then the more countries and the more states that started to jump on the lockdown mask mandate bandwagon, it really felt like once some of these governors and politicians could see that there was a mad power grab going on, and that with that mad power grab, they could basically just run everything through executive order and totally circumvent the entire system that is built to contain their power and to keep them from being able to just trample on our freedoms and our liberties. They saw that executive order and the threat of a pandemic gave them outright tyrannical power to do whatever they wanted, to mandate whatever they wanted, and to control our lives in the way that they saw fit. And so they jumped on it and they ran with it. And true to form, I mean, it showed exactly what power-hungry politicians really are. Like, they all came out and showed their colors. So they proved without a doubt who they are and what they care about. So here we are, like, locking down the entire society and putting people out of work. Some more statistics on that stuff. There was a thing from Spike Cohen, the Libertarian Party's VP candidate. He said, the government expected businesses that operate on a 3 to 4% margin to come back and be successful with 50% capacity. You were setting these businesses up for failure. There are so many businesses that will never come back. I don't give a shit what they say about the economy recovering and people coming back to work and all of this stuff. The numbers in and of themselves are conflated anyway. Everything about the economic numbers it's propped up on nothing. There is nothing holding up the economy right now. Hopes and dreams of the politicians, then basically it's their hopes and dreams that you never find out that there's actually nothing supporting it, but because it's all going to fall through, and that could very well be the end of the country as we know it anyway. Is the whole economy is going to collapse in on itself. Like, they start rolling out all this stimulus shit. The country is already trillions upon trillions of dollars in debt, and then they roll out another $7 trillion worth of spending this year alone. We were already bankrupt. We have now bankrupted ourselves as a country for eternity. There is no coming back from this. And it's all going to come home to roost eventually. Like, there's no avoiding it indefinitely. And I don't. It's like politicians. So I'm going to get off on a whole other tangent with the economy and everything, because they base everything on this this Keynesian economic model that when things are good, you tax more and spend less, and when things are bad, you tax less and spend more, and it props everything up, and it bankrupts the system. Like, you can't tax less and spend more. Like, the only way that tax cuts work is if you also cut spending. And at the same time, taxing more doesn't work either, because the higher the taxes, people are going to find ways to get around it. People are going to stop spending. People are going to, you disincentivize people to actually work and to make a living and to do these things. Taxes are a punishment. It's why it's called it's a tax. It doesn't incentivize people to do anything productive. So when they keep piling these on and adding it up, it just drives the market down. It drives people out. And it's absolutely insane. So they're spending more and more, but they're not letting people go to work. So the economy is never recovering. And then when they do start letting people go to work, they're not actually letting these businesses open up in a way that they can make money. So it just keeps it's driving worldwide poverty levels are skyrocketing right now, and they're not coming back down. The longer these lockdowns drag out, the less and less likely these jobs are coming back. And if these jobs don't come back, the people who had them are not going to be able to pull themselves back up out of this. And there's no amount of government spending, there is no amount of stimulus that is going to pull people who haven't been able to work since fucking April and May for the last 6 months, have been out of a job. There is no amount of government spending that can pull those people back out of that hole that they put them in. And that's the thing that the average idiot doesn't understand, is government cannot spend you into prosperity. You have to be able to earn that yourself. And the government will never tell you that. Like, they want you to think that as long as you are 100% reliant on them, they will take care of your every need all the time. And that is bullshit. They are not capable of doing that. It is an untenable system, because the people who actually are taking care of you are the people like me who have been working nonstop since all of this happened and trying to provide for our own families. We can't support other people as well. We don't have that kind of money, but the government is going to take our money from us being able to support our own families to try to support everybody that they've put out of work. And that is it. The whole thing is going to collapse in on itself, and it's an embarrassment. That something else that I've talked about is the education system in this country, and how people don't understand how just basic economics work, or how taxes actually work. None of it fucking works. And it's all just a Ponzi scheme that's going to implode. And we're the average Joe, you and me, we're the ones who are going to be left holding the bag. Nobody in government is going to be accountable for any of this. They have padded their pockets and they have built their nest eggs, and when the whole thing blows up, they have enough money that they can bolt and they'll be fine. And we'll be the ones who are left stuck holding the bag and trying to figure out how to recover from all of this. We've got to reach a point where people are questioning why the government is doing the things that they do, where people start to look for answers to those questions outside of, typical mainstream media, and starts to find a way to get out of this and get away from the duopoly that, like, neither party is providing any actual solutions or answers. They've spent the past century and a half fighting with each other over how to spend our money, and all the while, everything that they touch, they create more problems and zero solutions. Right now, there are groups and organizations all around the world that would take care of impoverished children and countries, like third world countries. 10,000 child deaths per month are linked to hunger right now. And that is because actual problem-solving charitable organizations and groups that go and take care of those kids and provide them with food and take care of these third world countries and impoverished nations and help them pull themselves up and create reliable sources of income and food and water and everything that they need to be functional in society. All of these governments are shutting all of that down. And so now people aren't able to be taken care of. All of the steps that have been taken to end world poverty over the last 20 years have effectively been wiped out by government overreach over the last 6 months. I think the number was something like, so it's 10,000 children per month worldwide are effectively starving to death because of these government lockdowns. And then on top of that, I think the number was another like 550,000 are what is considered like danger zone. Government has completely and totally created a worse problem with the cure for this pandemic than what the pandemic ever would have been if just left unchecked. And they would have you believe that they have all the answers and they have all the solutions and that you should rely on them. Never, never should you rely on the government to solve any problem. You have freedom, you have liberty, and you have the God-given right to go out there and earn a living and to make the decisions for yourself on what's best for your life and what helps you be safe and be healthy. And we got to get back to living those principles and fighting for those principles, because it's going to be a fight. It's coming down the pike pretty quick. Right, left, Democrat, Republican, they're all shit. And they all want the same thing, and that's to keep you locked up and under their thumb. And we've got to be ready to stand up and say, no, this isn't going to happen anymore. I'm going to wrap this up. I do want to give a shout out to my buddy Zach Lorenzotti with Lorenzotti Coffee. He's what fuels me every day on getting up and getting my coffee and getting me bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to get on here and smile and do these kinds of things. I also want to promote the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus. If you don't know what it is, ask me about it. I post links to their stuff all the time. It's a really awesome movement within the Libertarian Party that is picking up a lot of steam, and I call it libertarianism for actual libertarians. They really do stand by the principles of Ron Paul and Murray Rothbard and Ludwig von Mises, and it's everything from libertarianism that you really want. And I just encourage you to go look into those things. Look at fee.org and get some news from there. Look into some different news sources. I got links and different ones that I check into pretty regularly. So if you got any questions about that kind of stuff, shoot me a message. Let me know. Let's all get out there and educate ourselves and learn how to be better citizens of the world and take care of each other. Everybody have a good day.